Hello everybody and welcome to IELTS Live Thursday. Whoops, it just vanished. Welcome to IELTS Live Thursday. So if you are at the moment getting good scores in your listening and your reading, but you're finding that the writing especially, and perhaps also the speaking, is lagging behind, then you should watch this live, because I'm going to focus on the writing and tell you how you can make sure that you improve your writing skills and develop your writing to get a high band in writing. Now, I've been an IELTS teacher for a very long time, over 25 years, and in most of that time I have worked exclusively with students who need a minimum of band 7, and more I am working with students who need bands 8, and particularly band 8 in writing. And this, believe you me, is not a very easy thing to get. And what I've noticed happens a lot is that students focus a lot on reading and listening because it's more accessible, and they can improve their scores over time and reach band 7, 8, even 9. One of my students that took the exam a few weeks ago got 9 in reading, and he's not the only one. I've had a lot of students who've got 9 in reading and many who've got 8.5 in listening. So by ignoring the writing, which I know a lot of students do, it means there's then this gap between your listening and your reading and your writing particularly, but possibly also your speaking. But today I just want to focus on the writing. Now, the reason for the writing falling behind is, there are many reasons. One of the reasons is that writing is something we all learn to do much later than we learn to speak and listen and read. It's also something that needs to develop over time. So think about a child who's 6 or 7 learning to write. The kind of writing they produce is very different from, say, somebody who's 13 or 14, from somebody who is at the end of their school career, from somebody who is at university, and finally somebody who is in a professional role. And all of that time, the writing needs to develop. Firstly, to become more sophisticated and better suited to the kind of writing that's required. So university writing needs to be academic, professional writing needs to be a bit different. And each time you move into one of those new areas, you'll find that there's different vocabulary to deal with and different types of sentence structure to deal with. So writing has to keep developing depending on what you need the writing for. Now, right, that is in your own native language. When you translate that into a second language or a foreign language, it may be your 3rd, 4th or 5th language, then obviously that's going to take even longer because you need to get that one up to speed. So if you are looking to do a master's degree, your writing needs to be as good as the other students on that master's degree who are perhaps native speakers. If you're looking to do general training and you want to go and live and work in an English-speaking country, then your writing needs to be as good as your colleagues. And so it's important, if you're looking for a 7 and even more so for an 8, that you face up to the fact that your writing needs to be superb. And you can't afford to hand over something to the examiner that doesn't match the expectations of that examiner. Now, in order to achieve that, you need to develop your skill, and this takes time. So if you've been focusing up to now on listening and reading, it's time to actually turn to the writing. My advice to anybody is do not leave the writing until the end. Start developing your writing alongside all of the other skills, because all of these skills work together. And things that you do in reading will help writing, writing helps reading, speaking helps listening, listening helps speaking, etc. So it's important to have all the balls in the air at the same time. Now, one of my students once said, writing is the last IELTS hurdle. And I think there's a lot of truth in that, because writing is probably the last thing that will develop to a band 7 or a band 8. Even for native speakers sometimes, because I've worked with native speakers on IELTS, and I find that often they don't realize how seriously they need to present their work. So they will look at the question, throw out an answer, but not think about what style, what kind of vocabulary, how sophisticated it has to be. So all of this is important. So what I want to do is to give you 7 things that I personally believe you should be working on. And these are the things that I work on with my students who work one-to-one with me or in my IELTS Champions Club. So these are the things that we look at. And this is what will help you with your writing. So it's more about some of the mechanics, but these things are quite important. Number 1, less is more. That means don't write too much. If you write over 300 words, number 1, it will take longer, so you're losing time and you might need that time to check. Number 2, it will result in the potential for more mistakes, so you don't really want to be in that position. And number 3, it will stop you from really focusing on what sentences you want to use, because you will be writing quickly. So stay around the word count. So that's 150 to 180 for task 1 and 250 to 280 for task 2. That I would say is optimum. The other thing that less is more refers to is your sentence structures. Try to be economical in your sentence structure. So use noun phrases. Don't keep repeating the same type of sentence. Think about using participles. All of these things give a more sophisticated, more economical way of writing that will achieve you a 7.5 and an 8. Okay, that's number 1, less is more. Number 2, analyze your mistakes. So if you're working with a teacher and they send you back your writing and there are errors that they point out, you need to know, why did you make the mistake? What is the mistake? And how can you fix it? If you don't, you're not going to improve. So if you're working with somebody, make sure they explain clearly what the problem is and how you can fix it. And hopefully give you some exercises to work on that area. If you're working by yourself, it's very difficult to analyze mistakes. But there is one tip. Do your writing in a Word document, and if you have it in your Word, do the read aloud. So there is a read aloud function in Word, and listen to your writing being spoken out loud. And if it sounds funny, it means there's probably a mistake. So you can stop the read aloud, look at the sentence and see what's wrong. So if you're working on your own, which I wouldn't advise for writing personally, but if you are and if you have to, then you could use that function. Okay, number 3, synonyms. You need synonyms, and I'm thinking particularly of common words. Words like people, world, children, teenagers. These words that come into many different types of question, you need synonyms, but beware, make sure those synonyms are academic and formal. Don't use colloquial words. So it's important when you learn a new word to know if it's appropriate to use in writing. Okay. Number 4, learn some knockout words. So a few words that are going to knock the examiner's socks off. Now, these words needn't be fancy. I'm thinking of in task 1, which I'm sure you all use, respectively. Another word that I really like is significant or significantly. Most of these knockout words are going to be probably adverbs. But if you find a really good word, some people use plethora. Plethора's got too common, to be honest. But there are words like that that are quite unusual. Only ever use it once. The minute you use it a second time, you've destroyed the impact. So get a few good words that are slightly unusual but appropriate, but only use them once. But use them all the time in your practice. But in your exam and in the writing you send to the examiner, only use them once. Sorry about that. Number 5, look at the models. There are models all over the place, but I would be very careful about some of the models. Go for the models that are done by teachers. Look at the models in the Cambridge books. Do not try to copy them. Look at the vocabulary. Are there some words that you could use? Are there some phrases that you might want to try? And then try them in your own writing. So students who look at models and learn from models often improve their writing a lot. Number 6, try things out. You will never develop your writing or improve your writing unless you try things. Now, obviously, if you're trying new things, you need feedback. So it's quite critical to get that feedback so that you know you're using it correctly. But that's really important. And then finally, number 7, use the reading. When you're going through the readings, you will see vocabulary. You will see academic writing or formal writing if you're doing general training. And some of those words and some of those sentence structures will be very appropriate for your own writing. So you can borrow them and try them out. And if you like them and they fit with your writing, then use them. And the more you use them, the more they will be second nature. And when you get into the exam, you'll be able to do it quite easily and use them without any mistakes. Okay, so those are the 7 things. Less is more. Analyze your mistakes so you know how to fix them. Learn synonyms so that you have a good range of vocabulary for common words. Learn some knockout words. You only need 3 or 4 that you can use in your writing, but there'll be words that you can use. I gave you 2 examples respectively and significantly. You can use for any kind of writing. Look at the models to give you some ideas about vocabulary and language. Try things out because otherwise you will just be stuck in the same kind of writing. And finally, use the reading to help you. And one more tip, which I think personally is vital, and I know a lot of English language teachers and IELTS teachers agree with me on this. If you're looking for 7, 7.5, 8, do get somebody who knows what they're doing, so an IELTS teacher to help you. Because unless you do, it's going to be difficult for you to achieve those bands easily. It's very hard to correct our own writing. It's very hard for me to correct my own writing. I usually get somebody to check it before I post. So for you, it's going to be even more critical that you get some help. Now, I help a lot of students with writing, and there are 2 ways that I do that. The first one is my IELTS Champions Club, which I'm sure you've heard about. But this is a club and students pay a subscription to join it, and they get help with everything from me. So you will get help with your writing. And I'll put a link in underneath this post about the IELTS Champions Club. The second thing, if you want a really high band, is to work one-on-one with me. And I have a program called the IELTS Writing Bootcamp, which over the years I've worked with lots of students using this program. You get my personal correction for all of the tasks, but there are also exercises on vocabulary, sentence structure, grammar, and videos for you to reinforce the work that we do together. If you want to know about that course, then just put IELTS Writing Bootcamp into the comments below, and I will make sure that you get more information, or we can talk about it to see if it's fit for you. Okay, before I finish, let me just see if there are any okay, Nadal, right, I will come back to you with both the IELTS Champions Club and the IELTS Writing Bootcamp so that you can get the information on those 2 things. But you know, IELTS Champions Club's quite a buzzy place. There are quite a lot of students posting writing, posting reading questions, getting together for speaking practice, and it's quite a small subscription. It's I think it's $27 a month, and you can just join for 1 month. That's fine. Okay, so whatever you do, if you pay for anything in your IELTS, pay somebody to help you with your writing. I'll leave it there. It's quite a quickie, but a lot of information. And if there's anything you want clarification on or anything that you need to know more about, just put a message in the comments or send me a direct message. Bye everybody, and I hope to see you next week in IELTS Live Thursday.